Rainy day, everyone. So staying inside. So here we go. Hey, everybody. Real Estate Ninja here. I hope you're doing well. Got a story out of Newsweek. It's entitled House Prices Plummet More Than 10% in a Year in 3 Cities. I'm going to talk about this story, but I want to also explain what happens in the suburbs. Another part of the real estate cycle, meaning people need to understand how this works. They always look at like what's going on right now. That's all they care about. And they go, look, San Francisco's falling in prices. They're down like what? 15, 18, 20%, whatever it is. And they go, oh, it's okay because I live on the other side of the country. It's going to affect you. All right. And so this is where we explain these different parts of real estate cycles. With that being said, there's some 80% off links down below. The real estate, how to prepare for the real estate crash course. If you want those, as of January 1st, it will never be this price again. As a matter of fact, it will be 10 times that much. So if you want it, go check it out. The links are down below. So this is out of Newsweek. And again, we're going to talk about 3 cities, but I'm going to then explain why this affects way more than just a handful of cities. It says, while national house prices have dipped only modestly during the first few months of 2023, as the housing market had what experts called a correction phase, they have dropped much more dramatically in the cities of San Francisco, Austin, and New Orleans. Let me stop there and explain to you that this exact same phenomenon happened in 2005, where a handful of cities dropped dramatically, and everyone's like, no, this is just a correction. The experts, quote unquote experts, were saying everything's fine. There's nothing to see here. It's normal. Okay. This housing market is nothing. There's nothing normal about it. As a matter of fact, it is very similar to what happened in 2005, 2006, but on a much grander scale. Way more money was pumped into it, and we had a worldwide pandemic, okay? There is nothing normal about this. And if you think for a second that the Fed's going to, at a certain point, keep bailing, that's not what they did in 2006. And the other thing, too, is that people need to understand is that there were people back then telling me the exact same thing. When I was selling all my homes, liquidating everything, like, the government's not going to let this fall. They're not going to let this fall. Look at what happened in 2001. What people need to understand is that the government absolutely lets things fall, and then they look like the savior as they're printing a bunch of money. What you don't realize is you maybe got a little bit of your bill paid off. They sprinkled a little bit of money. They made billions of dollars as they were gobbling up land and property. This is akin to if you understand how public utilities went private. Public utilities popped up all over the country, obviously, at a certain point in our country's history, and then slowly and surely, but surely, they're getting gobbled up by private industries during crashes. And then there's other ways that it flips the other side to where all of a sudden you see a private company go government, but they never really truly do. And I give you one example is PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric in California, where the government's bailed them out so much, you can just pretty much call them a government enterprise, but they're still privately held. They're still out there giving bonuses away like, candy to their CEOs for running the company into the ground. Okay? So let's use that type of thinking, that type of methodology, not because it's your own methodology. This is how the world works, and we're going to put it into real estate context here, okay? And again, this story is out of Newsweek. So it says here, the Zillow Home Value Index, which tracks the typical, real quick, we also have to throw a shout out to Zillow. Remember, they were dead wrong when they were out there pricing their own homes, and then they were buying them, and then they couldn't sell them. So a lot of people put a ton of faith in Zillow, and you shouldn't. You need to put a lot of faith in your gut. What is your gut telling you right now? Is your gut telling you that homes are just going to keep going higher and higher, that miraculously people are going to have more and more pay just shoved into their pocket by the government? Look at what happened with GM. Look at all those people that were striking. And I even said in the beginning of last year, I said strikes are going to start because people and unions are going to use this to their benefit. They don't understand how economics work because they weren't taught this in high school or college properly. And they're going to go out and strike for more money, and then they're going to get the money, and then the companies are just going to lay them off. And look at that. Right after GM, fought in that big strike, what is it, 1,200 to 1,800 people laid off at one plant? And that's just the beginning. things are slowing down so fast, it's crazy. And you know what's really sucks? There are some insiders that I have, they're like, please do not share, because quite frankly, they've sort of been found out. I'd say a couple things and then they get a phone call, and that's what's really hard to believe. And I'm going to be honest with you, gut check honest, I still can't believe how watched this channel is. When I have an insider that's called into their office, into their boss's office, because of things I'm talking about in the industry, and they're like, are you the one? And they're like, you got to be kidding. Even my bosses are watching the channel. And there are some industries I can't talk about because of who told them to me, but things are slowing down at such a rapid pace. There are storage units of inventory. It's insane. And it's so easy. I don't even need an insider to tell me that, because I see what's going on in the freight industry. So all of that trickles into real estate. So if you want that kind of advantage, you need to start diving in right now, like knowing ahead of time, like I did, 2006, getting mocked and ridiculed. You're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. The government's always going to be there to help us. Blah, 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 blah. You want that kind of, you need to start diving into yourself. You want a time hack? 80% off the course right there, because it is being stopped in January. The course will be there for you to watch years and years, to watch over and over, but I'm not going to sell it at this price. I was told by my advisors that I was dead wrong. I should never have had that price started. I should have started at $3,000 for that course. They watched it. And this is what they do for a living. And I said, no, I want to help people. And they said, you're going to have an uphill battle. I said, I don't care. I still want to help people. So we gave it a timeline. There it is. So remember, when we go back to Zillow, Zillow was dead wrong. They were dead wrong. They were the ones that invented their little Zestimate. Their Zestimate was dead wrong. I even go over that in the course, like what you need to learn from Zillow and what you need to not learn from Zillow. There's a lot. All right. So the Zillow Home Value Index, which tracks the typical home value and market changes across the U.S., shows that home prices in the California city as of November had dropped by 12% since reaching their peak in 2022. That's a crash, actually. That's the beginning of a crash. Homes in San Francisco, which for decades had been one of the most overvalued and most expensive urban areas in the country, reached a peak of $1,461,000 in May of 2022, according to Zillow. The average home value there is now much lower at 1.234. The city was hit harder than others by the affordability crisis, afflicting home buyers, and by issues unique to the city by the Bay, including the exodus of major retailers from its city center. So we've all seen stories about that. But this is what you don't understand. And we're going to use San Francisco as an example, but we could use any real estate area that is congested and has been booming in the country. And we're going to talk about the suburbs. See, what nobody's talking about, and some outlets, news outlets, have hit on it, like with San Jose, Oakland, other areas, but they try and dismiss it based off of, especially like with Oakland. Oakland's a messed up city, man. It is. Yikes. The whole area is bad, right? Oakland's pretty rough. If you're from Oakland, let me know down below. Tell me what it's like. But so you have, let's just use San Francisco as an example, because that's the best, and really there's not the only one. Like Austin's another great example, but Boise, Idaho. There's lots of these cities, but there's not a ton because of where we are in the real estate cycle. We've just begun that crash. So you have this city, San Francisco, that's just inflated in price. And as it was inflating in prices over the years, people said the same thing. Real estate, oh, you better buy. It's never going to go down. It's always going up because there's so much industry here. There's so much happening. There's always going to be a buyer, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I have friends that have tenants, half of their rent is subsidized by their companies. So you have these companies that are growing and they're running off of these VC funds, and they're like gobbling up. Their headhunters are out there trying to find them the best talent. You know, it's the Silicon Valley model. Sorry, I don't want to get off topic, but it's a whole different way of building a business or an industry, right? And they all fail. But in the meantime, they're gobbling up, and they just blows up this real estate bubble, right? Rents go up so much to where home prices keep going up to stay right above them, because why not? People are like, I might as well buy a house at this point because a payment would only be $500 or $1,000 more a month. And then I have some equity, and it just keeps blowing that up. Well, what happens at the same time? People are forced out of that market that don't necessarily have their company that pays, subsidizes part of their rent or their house payment, and they go, okay, we're going to look at this town, Sunnyvale, we're going to look at this town, and they start diving, and they start, these commutes get farther and farther. Hey, I'm looking at, Gilroy or something, outside of the cities. And what happens is then they start blowing up those bubbles. Okay. So commute times get farther. Suburbs start expanding in price. What nobody talks about is when the city itself, which they used to call themselves the city because they were so pompous, it starts to deflate, and we're talking rapid deflation. That's fast. 10% a year for the last 2 years. That's pretty impressive, right? And you haven't seen anything yet. I almost bought true story. I almost bought a duplex on Lombard Street. You know that famous street? And I was going to buy it in 2002, and we were still at depressed housing prices as compared to where they were before the dot-com bubble, and had popped. And we ended up not buying it. Still kick myself today for not buying that. But my point being is that what happens is people don't realize, or they don't explain, or they don't understand that all these suburbs come down. See, in my local area, we have a couple of suburbs that they were just, they're, I wouldn't want to live there. But what happens is, as the main city gets expensive, people start diving into these places. Home builders start building new tract homes, and they start to revitalize the area, right? There's nothing better for an area economically than a boom, because then people start putting money into the unwanted places, and they start to boom. But here's the problem. When the city busts, and right now you have San Francisco dropping like a rock fast. Well, what's going to happen is, because of these golden handcuffs that people have on themselves, these golden handcuffs, they have a house and they're handcuffed, but they can't leave. They're attached to it because they're like, crap, I can't afford anywhere else, anywhere nearby. I'd have to leave and move out of the state, right? And that's happening all over. So let's shut some of this stuff. There's whoa. Anyway, sorry, the sun's coming up. My point being is that there are they're golden handcuffed, but eventually they're going to move, and it's going to take those suburbs and just crash them down. Because there's certain people in the suburbs that go, shoot, I'll sell and move into the city, so my commute time's cut, or they're going to see the writing on the wall and they're going to bail too, completely out of the area. And so this is happening quite rapidly. Now, the city that set off the 2006 to 2008 housing crisis, that was making all of the headlines that nobody talks about, was Las Vegas. Las Vegas was the biggest bubble in the country. It was, on a percentage basis, bigger than 2006. It was in a bigger bubble than, I get thrown off. The sun's just super bright. All the clouds are coming out, moving. But it was in a bigger bubble on a percentage basis than Los Angeles and San Francisco back then. And when it popped fast, like overnight. And so, I'm going to do this. Pretty soon I need sunglasses. It's going to get super, super bright. There we go. That's a great analogy. That's such a great analogy. When it's sunny and the sun is beaming, but it's cloudy, you don't know until just one of those clouds that have just that gap passes by. And all of a sudden it is bright. I mean, it is bright. And that's a great analogy for what happens in the real estate markets. It's like, it's always doom and gloom, or cloudy, then boom, it's sunny, right? And that's how fast a market could change. But when I say fast, I'm talking about years. But people get so entrenched in their life, they're not watching. They're so caught up in the minutia of life, the everyday grind, right? They don't watch for the pivoting. And that's what makes people successful. If you're able to pivot as an entrepreneur, that makes you successful. You know, Elon Musk didn't make all of his money in his first business. As a matter of fact, his first handful of businesses were failures. That's why he carries on the name X, is because he's always wanted a payment platform called X. Most people don't understand this stuff. And so I want people to realize where all this kind of stuff happens and how fast it changes in the market. So it says here, going back in, sticking with this theme of like how big bubbles pop and using this story from Newsweek. It says here, in the pandemic boomtown of Austin, home prices plunged by an even more staggering 19.3% since reaching their peak in 2022. So you have all over the country, we've got cities that are plunging at more than 10% a year. And there are a lot of people, some that would comment on this, would sit there and go, hey, we're fine. It's not going to affect me. Like, no, you don't get it. Your area was blown up because of these bigger cities in these states where we had a mass exodus. Now, all you're waiting for is a catalyst to turn everything down. Now, the median home price in our country is already dumped. It's already starting to turn downward, right? It's already going negative. Where right now you've got all these professionals, quote unquote. I'm not a professional. I'm a dude with a bro hawk and a dream of buying up everybody's houses as this thing crashes, and at the same time trying to warn the nation. But you can probably see down there in the comment section, there's always a couple of people out there that are just complete. And they're probably real estate agents that are pretty new. They have no concept of reality. They watch Pace Mosby and they're like, hey, I could just go out and do this and that. Like, that's actually not how the world works. But hey, it sells a bunch of books. That's how it works. It's really hard to be a wholesaler out there. It's really super hard to go get sub-2 deals where the owner has zero clue. And then what you're doing is you're just lying and taking advantage of them. See, all I'm going to do is go buy the home from the bank. I'm not going to go directly to the homeowner. That's just too dang depressing. You know, I teach you how to do it in courses. Hey, if you could do it, I can't do it. As a matter of fact, I told my story before about my first rental that I bought, where here I'm trying to talk the renter because she lived in the property for 7 years paying rent, and I'm going to go buy it for sick cash flow just based off of what she's been paying in rent. And I'm trying to talk her into buying the place herself. I'm not that kind of guy. But no, I am going to be there at the foreclosure auctions, picking up homes hand over fist. And type 1 if you're going to be there too. Type 1 if that's your plan. Type 2 if you're like, nah, I'm happy just where I'm at. Cool. That's where our country's gotten into its problems. Just a bunch of people going, oh, the government's here to save me. Yeah, bull crap. Government's not here to save you. So if you want to be status quo, then I don't know what to tell you. So it says here, Austin's fallen 19% since its peak right now. Okay. While New Orleans has dropped by 13.1% in the same time frame. Data analyzing changes between November 2022 and November 2023 show a slightly different but similar picture, with 2 of the same 3 cities being the ones with the steepest price declines, but in different order. New Orleans had the most dramatic decrease in value at 9% per year on year, followed by Austin of 8.2%. Actually, I can explain. This is great. And San Antonio, Texas, with a 3% decline. So here they go. All right. So you've got Austin that dropped this much in 2 years. And then New Orleans has only dropped this much in 2 years. But if you look at the last year, New Orleans has dropped actually more than Austin. Okay, this is why. This is actually a great lesson to teach you guys. All right. You always have to have a first bubble to pop. There's just, imagine the country. If I had an editor right now, it'd be a great infographic. Here's the picture of the US, and there's always bubbles, big bubble, bubble, bubble. And then all of a sudden you got some that are big bubbles and some that are smaller bubbles. And all of a sudden the big pin hits it. It's called the Federal Reserve, by the way. This is not a joke. This is actually so well orchestrated and planned, and it's so fundamentally basic. It's so easy to figure out that's why nobody believes it, because you've been raised in a world where bankers go, you gotta let us invest your money. You can't be trusted with your money. They've done this through brainwashing ever since you were a child. This is really, all these derivatives and stuff really important. You just let us do it. And then we're going to rape you in fees. That's what they do. It's a pinprick. The needle that popped that first bubble in America is the needle called interest rates. That's all they need. Raise the interest rates. And And I want you to understand this too. Imagine the balloon, and we've seen pictures like this. When you take a needle and slow motion, as a needle's going through a balloon, it doesn't pierce it. You see slow motion, that needle's coming through and it's pushing the balloon inwards. The rubber is expanding, it's doing its job, it's expanding more until that needle finally, where the end of the rubber is so thin at the end of the tip of the needle, it opens up. And then you see the reverse happen. As the balloon opens up around the needle and the needle's still going in, it blows out and open, right? That's that interest rate pressure that's going on. And that takes time to build up and slowly just open up, and then it explodes fast. All right. So you have that happen. Interest rates raise. They pop that bubble in Austin. Austin starts to fall dramatically. As fast as they come up, it's like Newton's theory of relativity. It's as fast as they come down, right? But now they're saying in this Newsweek article, well, it's weird though, because New Orleans hasn't dropped as much as Austin in the last 2 years, but it's dropped more on a percentage basis in the last 1 year. It's because now the cascade is starting. It's that snowball rolling down the hill, getting bigger and bigger until it runs into the ski lodge, right? We've all heard that analogy, but you have to see Austin, boom, right? San Francisco, boom. Now you've got, boom, this New Orleans. But if you look in the last year, it's fallen more, and it's going to pick up pace. If you think for a second that we're going to have a slow, I mean, if I had an editor, if I took the time, it would be awesome. There's actually a plan to do this in the future. But if you think that the Fed doesn't know this and understand how this works, you have got to get yourself some more education. And I'm not joking. That's not like an insult. Like, please understand how this works. Because Ben Bernanke told the whole nation in 2005 multiple times, yeah, you're wrong. Housing's not falling. It's not going to fall. And it already was. And they're like, yeah, it's good. I'm a pro. Listen to me. And he was dead wrong. But here's the thing. So is the National Association of Realtors chief economist. He's been dead wrong before the last crash. He's saying the exact same things, and he won't lose his job. That's what is going to happen. It says here, home values in San Francisco have somehow already started to bounce back, with the city reporting a modest 0.2% growth in prices between November 2022 and November 2023. So I'm going to read this again. Home values in San Francisco have somehow already started to bounce back, with the city reporting a 0.2% growth. Okay. So we're talking about a city that's fallen around 20%, and you're bragging that it's up right now seasonally because interest rates have come down 1%. You're bragging that it has gone up 0.2 of 1%. Think about that. Most of this nation, 99.9% of this nation, are headline readers. That's why they can't get past the take your money out of the banks headlines. And nowhere when they're like, you told me to take my money out of the bank. Like, I never said that. Yeah, it said in your title. I'm like, yeah. Did you watch the video? Because in the first 30 seconds, I pretty much lined it out. That's what's crazy. But that's what people are doing. And that's what I'm saying. I've been reporting on what people are doing. And it blows me away. And you've got to realize this, and you've got to start using this information, the twisting of information by the media, to your advantage, because your competition in this real estate crash are believing that. Oh, real estate's on the rise. Ninja was wrong. Yeah. Yeah, you ever seen a chart of housing prices? It does this. And over time it does this because the government does one thing really well. Taxes the crap out of you and destroys the purchasing power of your currency. And so it's doing this over time. Yeah, because things are inflated. You know what else done that? Gold. There's a lot of things that have done that. Fuel. Oh, yeah, food. Everything's doing that. But if you think all of a sudden we're out because home prices have went up 0.2 of 1%. It has went up 20% of 1%. then you're crazy. Type 3 if you think there's a bunch of crazy headline readers out in this country right now. Type 4 if you're like, no, well, our country's pretty level-headed. I don't think for a second, and this is what should get you fired up and excited about this next real estate crash. That's your competition. That is so crazy. Now it says situations like these cities are different from the rest of the US, as they were some of the most overvalued markets in the country, which exploded during the pandemic. Let me stop there and just tell you this. You know, the person that drives the semi-truck to the UPS station that offloads all the goods from Amazon, do you know he doesn't live in San Francisco? He lives in the Midwest, and he's being laid off right now. You know, the people that are being laid off left and right in the real estate industry, both the mortgage and the sales side, they don't all live in the big cities. They live across the nation. We are seeing car dealerships close down. We are seeing all kinds of layoffs. I've done tons of videos. They don't all live in these big cities. That's what the media is not going to tell you. So here, check this out. The Zillow House Index, this is Newsweek here, again, mainstream media, showed that home prices are up year over year in 38 of the country's 50 largest housing markets, including San Diego, 7.6% year on year. Boston, 7.2%. Philadelphia and Miami, 6.5%. You know what's crazy about this? And this is where I think you need to understand, like, this is very serious manipulation of data. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me go a little farther before I say it. The average home value in the U.S. is $346,000 as of November 30th, according to Zillow, which is up 2.2% year on year. In March, values had dipped to 335, only to start climbing back each month after. Let me explain something. This is going to be absolutely... Every time I go on realtor.com or Zillow, I see two different things. Realtor.com, I see price decreases, and I see the same on Zillow. Zillow used to have a function called pre-foreclosure, and it was, I don't remember the color, I want to say it was purple. The houses lit up purple, I believe, on the map. They completely wiped those off in 2018, I think the year was, when they took those off, because they didn't want people knowing the sheer magnitude or what was the reality of the market. Zillow is in the process, is in the business of selling you. They're like a real estate crack dealer. They got to get you hooked, and if you ain't buying, they're dying. All right. If transactions aren't happening, they're in trouble. And I believe, and you're going to see this with Redfin. Redfin's been coming out and saying, look, things are bad. Zillow has had this totally different approach. And I'm going to start tracking this because I think that you're actually being completely deceived by Zillow. And what's really scary is that the government has actually bought information from Zillow. And that's another thing that most people don't understand how the world works. The government buys data from companies, private companies, in all different aspects. They want your DNA info. That's serious. They want the real estate info. They want the agriculture info. And I believe what you're going to see is that there's going to be a day where Zillow is found out to be not so truthful. Because all over the map, I am seeing price reductions like crazy. And I have a feeling you're going to find out. And please tag this, like, remember this, what I'm about to say. Those numbers that they're manipulating are going to be on the lower end of the spectrum of houses, not on the entire, looking at the entire basket of homes, the cheap homes and the expensive homes. And they're going to take out, just like the government has done forever, lying to you about inflation numbers. They go, oh yeah, inflation's only this much. You're like, there's no way. It's like, I go to the grocery store, it keeps going up. Like, oh, well, we didn't put food in there. We put like the cost of furniture and big screen TVs. You're like, well, none of that crap matters. Like, well, that's our official number. That's the one we're going for. That's the one we're going to announce to the world. Well, yeah, but fuel keeps going up. No, we kept that out too. You're going to see that Zillow is going to turn out to be that company. And so please, like, remember this, because I'm not going to remember me even what video. There's just too many videos. We've been sending them off to the editors, all the ones that are right, because I let the haters hate. And then one day you're going to see, Yep, he did say that. Yep, he said that on this date. Because we got to build up something, because at one point you want to warn the nation, you want to warn everybody, but I want to warn the right people. And the right people listen diligently. They think openly, they think big. And this kind of exciting time is not meant for the masses. And it's true, because most people are greedy and they're not going to see it. I want you to be greedy on the right side, because the banks are doing it. So we have to be greedy similar to how the banks are being greedy. They want to buy up all the homes and they want to make everyone renters. I want America owning their own home, and then other homes that they're going to turn around and rent to people, good people, teach them how to be rich, and then turn around and say, hey, look, I'll sell it to you. And then you've become the bank. That's where the real wealth is made. Us becoming the bank. If you want the time hack and you want to get ahead of the schedule and you want to take advantage of this real estate crash course, 80% off, links are down below. It's $199 for the first course, the how to prepare for the real estate crash. It will never be this price again after January 1st. I hope you guys have a great day. The Real Estate Ninja is out.